Are there other ways to like hack into that? And I'll throw you a curveball, but there's this concept of affirmations, you know, where people say out loud every day what they are with the hopes that they become that person. Is this a way to maybe hack into some of this habit forming stuff? And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so affirmations or visualization or the kind of idea of like fake it till you make it. I don't think there's anything wrong with those things. There's nothing wrong with being more, if you get to choose what story you tell yourself, you might as well choose a positive one, right? But I do think that my method differs a little bit from positive affirmations or from fake it till you make it in the following way. So fake it till you make it is asking you to believe something about yourself without having evidence for it yet, right? You say, I'm a healthy person, even though you haven't gone to the gym yet or whatever. And we have a word for beliefs that don't have evidence. We call it delusion, right? Like at some point, your brain doesn't like this mismatch between what you're saying and what you're doing. And so the only nuance, the difference in my argument is that I think that we should let the behavior lead the way. So let the behavior drive the belief rather than the belief drive the behavior. And to be clear, it can work both ways, and it does throughout daily life. Like people adopt a new belief and then they take a new action because of it. But I think that if you're trying to get yourself to latch onto a new identity or tell yourself a new story, it's more powerful to let the behavior lead the way because the behavior provides immediate evidence that you are that kind of person. So if you say, I'm a healthy person, you might be able to, it's like a short-term strategy. You might be able to amp yourself up or motivate yourself in the moment. But if you do 5 push-ups, you immediately have proof, I'm a person who works out. And there's something about that evidence that I think makes it easier for you to root that new story in something. It gives you a reason to actually hold on to it. And so for that reason, I think it's more useful to start with the small habits, build up some evidence and proof of that new identity. And then the more that you do that, the bigger the pile of evidence becomes, the more reason you have to actually believe, hey, that is me.
Yeah, maybe some combination of both or something. When you were talking about the working out story, I kept thinking of this Arnold Schwarzenegger quote from the movie Pumping Iron when he was like, every rep I was smiling, he said, because it was getting me one step closer to Mr. Olympia. And then you look at him and you're like, okay, I can see why Arnold would think that, but most people, every rep is pain, and they don't see it. But so is that a way of him kind of hacking forward those future payouts?
I think that is similar to what you mentioned earlier about like, oh, cigarettes are poison, or the story about the bread, like, oh, carbs being unhealthy or whatever, is that he was finding a different way, he was developing a new meaning for the same experience, right? Usually it's the meaning you ascribe to that experience is my muscles are burning, this is painful, I'm not enjoying this, it requires sacrifice. And he twisted that around to say, this is great, the pain means I'm growing, it means I'm moving forward, I'm getting closer to my goal, and so on. And I think there's something powerful about good habits become easy habits when you can learn to find joy in delaying gratification, right? And so he was finding a way to get pleasure out of the process of putting in the work. And that can be a really powerful motivator in the long run.
Is that called reframing?
Yeah, and I think that I've thought about writing about this more. I haven't written a ton about it yet, but I think that there are strategies and a few different mindset reframes that you can go through that can really change the likelihood that you stick with a habit. If you learn the right story to tell yourself, it becomes easier to maintain that over the long run. The tricky part is, I think it's really easy for people to come up with like total BS about what those stories should be and like, you know, just kind of invent a bunch of stuff that nobody can verify or check. And so then we just say all these things that maybe don't actually move the needle. So I don't know much about that, about the right way to do it, but I think for sure there's a way to tell yourself the right story and it changes the way that you act in the long run.
Yeah, but it has to be like credible. Otherwise, I think your subconscious just can see BS coming a mile away and it's just like, nah, you know, I don't think so. And then maybe you revert back.
That's kind of my point about let the behavior lead the way rather than the belief. Because if it's not credible to yourself that, oh, I'm a healthy person, then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, no, you're not. You know, like you don't have any proof of that. But it's like, well, I did 5 burpees today, so today I was healthy. Then you actually have a reason to make that be a credible story in your mind.